And welcome to the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction Post-Game Show. I'm Jonathan Santiago. This is James Ham. And the Sacramento Kings losing the first of four games on the road in the Eastern Conference, 99-89 against the Boston Celtics. We have a lot of thoughts on this game. In fact, I think we'll have more thoughts on the game rather than touching on our three things to watch, because some of the things that I had asked pregame didn't really come to fruition based on injuries and health issues. But just to start things out, Rudy Gay did not play. He got the flu. Marcus Thornton out because of, what was it, a hip contusion, because he had sustained that injury Wednesday night against the Toronto Raptors, so they were playing shorthanded. Rajon Rondo did not play for the Boston Celtics because the Celtics are working him back into health following his torn ACL a year ago. And this game was winnable, James, and I've got some thoughts on it. I'm sure you do too. But let's go ahead and get to our three things to watch. And as I mentioned, nothing really from the first point. Rondo versus Isaiah Thomas. Rajon Rondo didn't play. But
Nope.
Isaiah Thomas, you had some things to say about him before we went on. He finished with 24 points, but took 23 shots to get 24. And this is the Isaiah Thomas that we've seen a lot of lately. Is a guy who's chucking up a lot of shots and isn't really finding a way to make his teammates better lately.
Yeah, honestly, John, what it looked like to me is that when Malone went to his bench, everything fell apart completely. I mean, completely. The bench ends up with absolutely nothing on the night. I mean, what do we got? 8 points out of Ben McLemore and 2 points out of AC and 2 points out of Fredette. So 12 points total out of the bench. They get absolutely dominated on their bench. But the problem is that when your bench is falling apart and you bring in Isaiah Thomas and DeMarcus Cousins to sort of right the ship, that means righting the ship. It doesn't mean throwing up every single ball that touches your hand. I mean, to me, this was like, I think Isaiah Thomas, he turns 25 today. He scores 24 points. To me, this game was more about him scoring 25 or more points than it was about the Sacramento Kings winning a basketball game. And I know he wants to win, but you got to make these guys better. I keep saying this, but it's just, you have to get these guys open. You have to find easy baskets for Derek Williams, for Ben McLemore. These guys cannot create their own shots. And that's not what we saw. Once again, we saw hero ball, but this time we saw it for 39 minutes. And to me, it was just like, stop trying to fill up this stat
Just the
sheet.
sigh, the long sigh there by James.
Oh,
I think that it's been an issue
palm.
with Isaiah. Obviously, the last few weeks when DeMarcus was out and Rudy Gay was out for a couple games there, Isaiah, when he is, when he feels like he has to step up, he kind of takes it upon himself to do it from a scoring perspective, as opposed to how can I create for my teammates, which is unfortunate because he does need to get the other guys involved, because he can't win games on his own. And I just think that's the mentality that, unfortunately, that he has when a guy like Rudy Gay goes down or DeMarcus Cousins goes down at this point. And I think it's going to be on him to recognize that, hey, look, I'm scoring all these points, but it's not making us better. It's not giving us a better chance to win. Because I'm taking so many shots, it's a detriment to my team.
John, it's what separates a guy like Nate Robinson or a guy like Jamal Crawford from a star guard. It's exactly that. It's the guy who comes in and he thinks his only job is to come in and score as many points as possible. And that's why so many people consider Isaiah Thomas a super six and not a starting point guard. I've never been in that boat. I've always thought that he's a guy that could actually work out as a starting point guard. But the deeper we get into this season, the deeper we get into this experiment, the deeper we see that he isn't accepting the role that he has to accept. If the Kings are going to be a better team, he has to be a better teammate and a better player overall. He can't just be a better scorer. And, I mean, that's the facts, Jack. I mean, I like the guy. I think he's a good leader. I think he's got a lot of intangibles. I think he can do a lot of things. But just the truth is, the difference between being a $7 or $8 million player this offseason and being a $4 million a year player this offseason is whether he makes his teammates better, and he's got about 30-something games to prove that this isn't the player that he is, that he's actually better than what he did tonight.
All right, let's move on to point number 2, James, and that is who gets some minutes at the 2. Obviously, I mentioned Marcus Thornton not playing tonight. There were some questions as to whether he would even play going into the game, but the hip contusion, taking that hard spill against the Toronto Raptors on Wednesday sidelined him for this game, and we don't know how long Marcus Thornton is going to be out. It's a day-to-day type situation with him. And Ben McLemore, according to all those who were out there at the TD Garden tonight, was slated to get the start at the 2, but instead Travis Outlaw was the late add into the starting lineup at the 2 guard position, and he played 30 minutes tonight, 5 points on 2 of 7 shooting. Ben did get to play tonight. He only played 8 minutes, though, scored 8 points on 3 of 11 shooting. So, not much there. And it didn't really seem like Jimmer Fredette played many minutes, obviously, at the 2, mostly at the point guard again. Really, realistically, even though Marcus Thornton hasn't been producing much as a shooting guard this season, once again, they didn't really get any production out of that position tonight.
No, actually, Travis Outlaw played 33 minutes. Ben McLemore played 21 minutes on 3 of 11 shooting at 8 points. You had him with 8 minutes and 8 points, but that's okay. Again, this is one of those facepalm games. It's like, how many coaches need to say that they have this epiphany about 15 games into the season and they go, oh my gosh, I just realized Travis Outlaw really isn't a small forward. He's a power forward. Every single coach that the Kings have had while Travis Outlaw has been here, which has been 3 coaches, say, oh my gosh, Travis Outlaw is actually a stretch 4. He's not a small forward. And then tonight we have him start at the 2. And to me, it just didn't make any sense. And not only that, but it allowed Boston to start a different type of lineup, a lineup that really worked for them, where they went big. They started, Jeff Green, Gerald Wallace, Sullinger, and Brandon Bass. So they went really big, and they were just matching up. I think this is sort of Ben McLemore's chance to shine again, and you went to Travis Outlaw, which I just don't get. And, Derek Williams, he's got plenty of opportunity here in the last couple of weeks with Rudy Gay injuries, with, the illness again tonight, to shine, and just, hasn't shined at all. So.
Yeah, Derek Williams, on a side note, double-double, 11 points and 12 rebounds, but 2 of 11 from the field. And I think
3 from three-point line.
I think part of that is due to, as you said, he's a guy who I think needs help creating his shot. And if Isaiah Thomas can set him up, I think you see him shoot much better from the field than he did tonight. But that's not something that happened. So you see him shoot 2 of 11 from the field. All right, last thing to watch here. Does the Kings defense travel tonight? And 45% from the field did the Celtics shoot tonight. 21 second chance points for the Celtics to 18 second chance points for the Kings. 42 points in the paint for the Celtics. And Jared Sullinger, pretty much, you'd think that this would be a matchup that DeMarcus Cousins would easily dominate, but it was a wash tonight because Jared Sullinger was a beast. 31 and 16. For Sullinger, and DeMarcus Cousins also finishing with 31 and 16. So if Jared Sullinger is pretty much matching the production of DeMarcus Cousins on the evening, then you're going to have a tough time winning against the Boston Celtics, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just a disaster. For me, again, I just thought that this was one of those games where you had to try something different. Whatever the Kings threw out there, it didn't work. It was obvious. And I think the one thing that we've seen over the course of this season is that when you allow Jimmer to play with either DeMarcus Cousins or Aaron Gray, it frees everything up, the whole flow of the offense, everything, having that monster screener come out for Jimmer. That would have been tremendous. And not only that, but I would have liked to have seen Aaron Gray try to slow down Sullinger when he's going nuts in the paint. I mean, they just weren't getting a body on anybody. And that's what Gerald Wallace can't fly in and get 12 rebounds, 3 of them offensive. If Aaron Gray, all 7 foot, what does he weigh? He's got to be close to 300 pounds. If Aaron Gray is standing there in the middle clogging the lane, and they didn't do that. They stuck with Quincy Acee. They stuck with Carl Landry, who literally, Carl just is not ready to play at all. And they gave Jason Thompson, 36 minutes, and I don't think Jason Thompson had a great game either. I think there was a lot of finger pointing in this game between Jason Thompson and DeMarcus Cousins. That's never a good sign. They were both looking at each other across more than once. There were more than a couple of times where they're both standing there, and then the Celtic flew in, grabbed a rebound, and went right over the top of both of them. Just some really embarrassing defense, John, overall.
Player of the game, who do you got? I've got Jared Sullinger, obviously, because of just how he played. Career high, 31 points, 16 rebounds, big double-double. 14 of his 31 points came in the fourth quarter, and that's really when the Celtics blew this thing wide open, I thought. And I kind of felt, Michael Malone could have gone back to DeMarcus Cousins and or Isaiah Thomas a lot sooner in the fourth quarter, and that might have stopped the eventual run that the Celtics had, because, they were trailing by 6 when he took the timeout at the 9:39 mark. And, he opted not to put DeMarcus or Isaiah back in the game. The Celtics went on to score 10 unanswered points at that point and blow this thing wide open. And I know, we can look at, the lack of production from the bench. But when a game was within reach like that in the fourth period, I really thought that, if he had gone back to his guys, his go-to guys a little bit sooner, maybe more so DeMarcus than Isaiah, they might have had a chance to, pull this one out. But, by the time DeMarcus had checked back in the game, the game had already been blown wide open, in my point.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Jimmer Fredette stay in the game alongside of Isaiah Thomas and actually give Isaiah somebody who can actually shoot from the perimeter. That would have been a nice look for me. Even if you went small and just tried to race these guys and, left McLemore in at the small forward for a little while, because, it looks like, Travis Outlaw played at least a few minutes in the fourth quarter at the small forward position. That's something that I would have tried. I would have looked to do something different. But yeah, easily the player of the game is Sullinger. He made Cousins look bad for every bit of, good. When you have two guys each score 31 points and grab 16 rebounds, and you look at one of them as DeMarcus Cousins and the other one is Jared Sullinger, then something's gone horribly wrong. And the Kings have a history of letting guys have career nights on them. It goes back all the way to 1985, but this was a special night where you let somebody just go nuts. And not just a career high in scoring, but 16 rebounds as well was really impressive. So no, the defense wasn't there, the bench wasn't there. Actually, 3 of the starters weren't there. And this is just a game where you easily could have won, and instead you come away with a bad beat.
Yeah, no disrespect to Jared Sullinger, but you wouldn't think that. I think that's part of the problem that the Kings may have had. I don't know. You come out, you watch film on the Celtics, and you see Jared Sullinger, who looks a lot bigger this year than he was last year in his rookie season, and you think that guy's not going to be an issue to defend. He's out of shape, but he's a skilled guy. He's very skilled offensively, and he took advantage of the Kings tonight, I think, underestimating his ability to put the ball in the bucket and rebound.
Yeah, I definitely, Jared Sullinger is a talented player. Don't get me wrong. He was very talented coming out of college. He had back issues that made him slide in the draft. Then he lost most of his rookie season to a back injury. He is a guy with a lot of low post skill. He's sort of a throwback big man that can do a lot of things. I don't dislike him as a player. But he shouldn't go off for 31 points. DeMarcus Cousins and Jason Thompson are both professional big men who have been doing this long enough that you just can't let a guy do that to you. Just doesn't make any sense. And in Cousins' defense, he was double-teamed getting his 31 and 16 almost the entire night, sometimes even triple-teamed. So, I mean, he had an easier go, but again, if Sullinger is going to go off for the same amount of points, maybe you should look to double team him as well.
All right, once again, a final from Boston. The Celtics defeating the Sacramento Kings 99-89, and we'll call it quits here on this Road Reaction post-game show. We'll be back on Sunday when the Kings take on the Washington Wizards at the Verizon Center. That is scheduled for 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tip-off. So we'll be on probably around, I'd say 2:30 or so with another edition of the Road Reaction post-game show. So until then, we will be back, and signing off for James Am, I'm Jonathan Santiago. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Road Reaction post-game show here on CowbellKingdom.com.